just having fun. Then shortly after midnight, around 1 a.m., her boyfriend left, locking the door behind him. And sometimes after that, residents in neighboring condos heard a scream coming from a condo. No one called 911. The person screaming was Michelle White. There was no sign of forced entry, and it looked like the individual that committed the act had just walked straight in. The crime scene was taped.
And don't you love me how the next day
and
they
clues
was
were
like, I
sought
thought I
endlessly.
heard
But
something.
still,
I heard
the
screaming,
case
scuffling,
confounded
fighting,
every
glass
investigator
breaking,
and picked up
bullets
the file.
flying. I heard all types of
DNA,
shit.
which
And
seemed
nobody
to be
did
the
nothing.
white knight in every tale of homicide, wasn't helpful. After a lot of work with little to no effort to show for it, the case was closed for years until a retired San Diego sex crime and homicide detective decided to pick up the
let no man
case.
stand between.
He began to deduce what might have happened that
two souls
night
that
that would have caused the killer to get into a door without having to force it open. He theorized that Wyatt was unlikely to open the door for a stranger at that time. He said that the killer must have been watching her and almost definitely knocked on her door mere moments after her boyfriend left to give the impression that it was her boyfriend at the door who had maybe forgotten something. In June 2000, more DNA testing revealed that there were two DNA profiles on the crime scene. One was her boyfriend, who was later eliminated as a suspect, and the other was an unidentified person whose DNA produced no match on the National DNA Criminal Database. 2 decades were passed, and they tried yet again to see if a match could be produced. Yet again, they found nothing. It was when they decided to use genetic genealogy that they began to see progress, and the homicide investigators finally identified the suspect. A man named John Patrick Hogan was just 18 years old when White was killed. However, no arrest could be made because Hogan had died 17 years ago at the age of 42 from a drug overdose on October 9, 2004. This discovery was made through the use of genetic genealogy, and this was exactly 24 years from the day White was killed by him. Hogan's death meant that the detectives tracked down his relatives, who then provided DNA samples to help to confirm his identity. After he was positively identified as the killer, it was found that Hogan was born in Arizona and had once lived in the same condo where he would later kill Wyatt. He had moved there in the 1970s and still had friends in the complex when he committed the terrible crime. Shortly before the killing, he had joined the Air Force, and he had also spent a brief time in New Mexico, where he was stationed. Subsequently, and during the time of the crime, he was shuttled between his birthplace, Arizona, and California. Detective Lieutenant Tom Siebel, who had been supervising the case, made it clear what would have happened if he were still alive. He's the one that committed the sexual assault and murder. He would be arrested if he was alive. Michelle's parents, who were both age 80, had spent most of their lives pursuing this case and trying to find their daughter's killer to no avail. When the news got to them, they were not sure how to feel or react. They missed their daughter, but they also wished they could confront the man who killed her. Michelle's mother, Louise, had this to say: "Okay, he's dead, but I would have liked to have been able to talk to this man personally. I just feel horrible for the ending." Ultimately, Michelle Wyatt's parents were grateful to the detectives for pursuing for over 40 years on a case that many others would have abandoned and forgotten. The man who committed the crime might have met his end, but at the very least, the questions the victim's family had always wanted for some semblance of closure had finally been answered. Plus, the spirit of Michelle Wyatt can now peacefully rest.
Welcome joy into every corner of your home with Castleby's latest collection.
Chevy Equinox EV starting at $34,995. Go EV without changing a thing. Chevrolet.
I love how it changes. I like to use it like to
A
make
young
the
couple
beginning and
from
the
Great
end one
Falls
song.
went on a date on the night of the
As you're
2nd of
folding
January,
it, you see it change
1956.
literally right before your eyes.
But as the sky grew
That's
darker
that
and
gray
the
I
air
was telling you
got
about
stiffer,
earlier.
neither of them returned
I love the
home.
baby blue.
They were 16-year-old Patricia Kalitsky and 18-year-old Lloyd Dwayne Bogle. Patricia was a junior in high school at the time, and although she had only met Dwayne a month prior at her cousin's wedding, the two appeared to be smitten with one another and would spend